Cinema Classics here, post-recording here at WCBE. I'm Johnny DiLoretto.
I'm John DeSando.
We just talked about Louis C.K.'s I Love You, Daddy.
Yes, we did.
Which he made in secret. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, he didn't tell anybody about this production.
Huh.
So when the finished film was announced, it came as a surprise to most everybody because there was no there was no press release about him making the film or anything like that. So he made it on the sly.
Yep.
And it's a black and white film that's really in dialogue with Woody Allen's Manhattan. And it's essentially Louis C.K. contending with that question of late that we keep wrestling with. Can you separate your idolization of an artist from the artist's shortcomings as a human being?
Yeah.
Right? Which we now have to contend with, all of us as fans of Louis C.K. because he's recently been taken down in this whole watershed moment of, calling out male piggery. And
oh yeah, he not having seen much of his work, and I saw only clips of his show Louis, and now with this film I Love You, Daddy. The problem is that he has admitted to abusing himself in front of women.
Yeah.
And this is just visually even a tough call for all of us who love our artists.
Well, visually it's tough to see it visually. Who wants to see that?
I know, right?
Awful.
So it seems that in when you take his film I Love You, Daddy, and you have an extended sequence of Charlie Day as a TV star buddy of his, simulating this act in front of him while Louis C.K. talks to a star on the phone,
Which is interesting because it's Charlie Day doing it while Louis C.K.'s character is on the phone with Rose Byrne.
Right.
And he's the idea is that Rose Byrne plays a big successful actress who's agreeing to be in their movie.
Yeah. She's actually pushing herself to get in it.
Right. Yeah. And Charlie Day's character is so excited at the prospect of that this big star is going to be in their movie that he's doing this.
I know, but he's also...
But so it's interesting, right? Because it's a different scenario. It's this guy on a couch doing it in front of this guy, but not really doing it. It's just a pantomime.
But guys will do that. They'll take their hand and they'll go in the air. They'll move it in the air to simulate this, which is really like saying, what a jerk this guy is.
Yeah.
Or he can see him working Rose Byrne. So it says a lot of things. But when you look at the fact that he has admitted to doing this in reality in front of women, that's the tough part.
That's the crux, right? So how can this guy, whose career is built upon this painful self-awareness, right, and the orchestration of that in his stand-up routines and on his television show, this orchestration of sort of recognizing the worst impulses in himself, self-critiquing them, and then sharing them, right, with an audience, whether it's a stand-up audience or the audience of his show, right? I mean, it seemed to be such a noble comedy endeavor to really sort of pick yourself apart like that. Which, look, he wasn't the first guy to do that. In fact, I think that's why he loves Woody Allen. Because Woody Allen was he's the apotheosis of comedians who have, excoriated their inner workings, and shared them with people. Louis C.K. did that in a more gentile and, coarse way sometimes. So it's astonishing, right, to see that those pieces at work, and here's a guy who his career is predicated on self-awareness but can't see that these elements are in his own films.
And in this case, I like very much the way that he has presented Woody and Manhattan in his own way.
Yeah.
And what gives me hope for Louis C.K., and I predict he will be back, if only as a writer.
Yeah, I'm sure that he will, because I think he owned up to his, he immediately said he did it. He immediately said he was going to take steps to, examine his behavior and be a better human being and blah 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 blah. The thing is that I think needs to be said about this movie is it's good, but it has serious flaws. I don't think had it been released that his typical audience would have responded the way he wanted them to respond to it. It's not that funny. It gains steam as it goes along.
Oh, it does. It's amusing. One of the amusing parts to me is the way the father tries to deal with this rebellious daughter.
Yeah.
And Chloe Grace Moretz is terrific as a vampy,
Spoiled,
stunning, spoiled girl. She's hooking up with a Woody Allen type of director.
Played by John Malkovich.
Yes.
And he's very creepy.
Oh,
and,
he's great. He is.
John Malkovich is such a weird
He is good.
figure.
And
Anyway.
most of the time he's going over the top. This time he's underplaying. But
he's just letting his persona and his weird face sort of do all this work. That part of it is good. I said in the show when we were recording that once the characters are in place, once the central premise is at work, the film starts to click. Louis C.K. is not the filmmaker Woody Allen is. And so I think that's part of the problem here. He's trying to, make a self-critiquing homage to Manhattan without any of the filmmaking chops that Woody Allen had. Woody Allen had made, by the time he made Manhattan, he had made, probably 15 films. And he was working with the greatest cinematographers, and he was working with the greatest composer, Gershwin.
All right.
At that point.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that
and he has
really
much music in this one, too.
Yeah, and it doesn't click. There's something wrong. There's something not working with Louis' score here.
Oh, well, there's something inelegant about Louis and his whole setup and his buddy and how they're working everything. But in the end, I think he has promise as a Woody would be.
Yeah.
I think that there is, in the years to come, he could, because he's a good writer. And so if he can continue, if he can work the way in the Red Scare, the way writers wrote under other names, I think he can continue to work.
Yeah, I think he will continue to work too. I mean, I think in the vast scheme of the Weinstein aftermath, as grotesque as Louis' behavior was, he can recover from that, and I think he will. But I had a question for you that I didn't ask you during the recording of the show. So, the Malkovich character.
Yes.
He's this. We're told he's this Lothario. He can really wheedle his way into these relationships with these young women, right? And they can't resist him, and so Louis' character sees this playing right before him with his own daughter. She's enamored of him. She's going to places with him. But they don't have sex.
Yep.
And then there's a moment near the end of the film, spoiler, where she wants this to happen. She offers
18.
Yeah, and so she sort of makes the offer to the Malkovich character, and he declines.
Yes.
So
I love that moment.
Is that Louis C.K. saying to the audience that he doesn't believe that Woody Allen is guilty of the things that
nice. I think many things are possible with that one. It can be Louis C.K.'s wish fulfillment that his daughter or any daughter would turn down the Malkovich type character, and that's his way of projecting it. And the other one is, as you said, this director played by Malkovich is so mercurial, and in some ways he changes here and there. He shapeshifts so much that, like any father who watches his daughter, you're like powerless. It's whatever Malkovich's character wants or whatever his daughter decides. It's completely out of his hands. And so why not turn it around and have nothing happen?
Yeah, right.
Anyway, I have a quote. It may or may not be totally applicable here, but Louis C.K.'s ambivalence about sex. Okay, and I think it runs through a lot of his work. He said, dating is horrible. It's awful. I don't get it. It's like you're standing there, hi, do you want to have sex? And later, Hi, do you want to have sex? And later, wish you hadn't? It's horrible. This is what the guy says.
Yeah, I don't
How
think
about
he's.
that?
I think he's more ambivalent about dating than he is about sex.